Hey, team players, this is Bob coming at you with another Sunday streaming and dreaming here with a big board here on Underdog. At the request of Scorpion, one of our viewers, we're going to go live and we're going to talk about some of the things that we've noticed out of the big board lately. Joe's not going to join us today. He'll be with us tomorrow. But we're going to rack up a big board here and we'll see what's going on. I wanted to take a look and talk to you guys about the ADP risers and fallers, some of the ways that you can get value here. Some different ways to think about the tight end position that we've talked about recently, some different ways to think about quarterback, running back, et cetera, et cetera. We've talked a little bit about this over the course of the season last year, where you zig when others zag, et cetera. There's a lot of things to think about when we go into these drafts. So what we're going to do is we're going to pop up the ADP right now. We're just going to chat about that for the time being. So as you can see here, there's a couple of important things to keep in mind. This first round here is definitely not something that I'm entirely concerned about. There's a lot of good value in this first round. And I think that no matter what position that you're at, you really can't go wrong. So we're going to table that for a moment. And I think one of the biggest things, and this is one of the big things that a lot of content creators out there in the space are really talking about, is the drop off in value of running backs that we've seen. Now, this has not changed much from the last week when we did a Sunday big board. But a lot of people are very uncomfortable once we get past this grouping of running backs. This grouping of running backs here is what's happening, King. Welcome. This grouping of running backs here seems to be the grouping of running backs where people have pretty much stated, I don't really want a lot of running backs to come after that for a significant period of time. And where you're seeing all of these running backs go is usually somewhere in that 4th, 5th round. And then after that, you're seeing a big bump to tight ends, wide receivers, and quarterbacks. Now, when we get to this grouping of players right here, there's always going to be a grouping of players. I got you on that, King. I have a couple ideas. So when we look right here at this grouping of players specifically, this is a grouping of players where people are not seeing a lot of value in. Primarily when we're looking at the little boards that we've done over the past couple of weeks, what you've noticed is that the two players here that kind of shoot up the board for some people are Bashal Tutin and Kamanungai, knowing that they could get a little bit more within their system, especially if Travis Etienne moves along. A player that people are really kind of putting down the board a lot is Jaylen Warren and Tony Pollard, knowing that those situations, how will the new coaches use these running backs? Will they use them the same? To be quite honest with you, I think that Jaylen Warren, for me, is pretty much one of the reasons why I'm okay passing on a couple of these guys ever so often. Now, when we scroll down even further, then we have a really interesting mix of players. Jadarian Price, one of the rookies, first one in a while that pops up. Jonah Coleman, one of the rookies that first one pops up. Emmett Johnson, first one that pops up in a while there at 132. So you have a couple of these rookies going off here. And I have to ask myself, when I'm looking at rookie running backs, particularly also when I'm looking at rookie wide receivers, is what situation are they going to go to that they potentially could be successful in? And will those teams instead defer to go after a running back who is already NFL ready, who they don't really have to look at and do too much with, right? Guys like Rico Dowdle, David Montgomery, Tyler Algier. So these players in this caliber, they are scary. And if you don't feel like you've gotten one or two running backs in the first 4 rounds, you tend to kind of overthink it a little bit more. But we know that Rico can be successful. We know David Montgomery has had success, and we know Tyler Algier can be successful. Each one of these 3 running backs, if they don't go back to the respective team that they're on, are going to get a role on a team next year, which really makes me think about the price of these rookies versus the price of those 3 veterans, okay? So that's my first thing to think about. Then coming here, we have a grouping of players that are uneasy situations and or pass catching right now. I love this for you, King, man. You do have to hit some of those rookies to go far. You're absolutely right. And so when I look at some of these players here, this is where I start to think that maybe I want to take more chances on the rookies, okay? Because we know that Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt's situation could go in a negative direction depending on how Jaden Daniels comes back and impacts him. We know that Woody Marks is behind a terrible offensive line still, and we want more concrete kind of news to see if Joe Mixon, Chubb, et cetera, will be back. So Woody Marks is a guy that I am starting to pump the brakes on. Same with Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. Not saying that I'm not drafting them right now, but I do like some of these rookies in this area, right? Jonah Coleman and Emmett Johnson are probably where I'm taking my first chances, King, at a rookie running back that's not Jeremiah Love. I think Jeremiah Love's cost right now is really high. It can get higher especially if he goes to a team like the Saints, who have been looking for a running back to kind of be the apparent heir to an Alvin Kamara type of player, right? Then as I look down through here, we have the aforementioned Kamara, Tajay, Charbonnet, Connor, and Allen. Connor, I'm probably pushing off to the side a little bit more often than not. Sharps with the injury, he absolutely can come back, but we do know that he wasn't the most efficient runner last season as well. So I am taking some chances on them there. I'm passing on Jordan Mason, passing on Aaron Jones. I do like, and King, you asked about rookies, but not so much that he's a rookie. But I do like the idea here of Sean Tucker. Unfortunately, Nicholas Singleton, we have to push down with the broken foot. He actually could be interesting value, King. What's happening, Mick? He actually could be very interesting value there, Nicholas Singleton, if people are passing on him with the broken foot, maybe he comes back later on in the season. He's definitely dropped down some people's board. He's not where he was before. If Jeremiah Love ends up on the Chiefs, I think that that's a great situation for Love. We know that the Chiefs want a running back. They've been using a combination of Hunt and Pacheco that hasn't actually been super successful. If Jeremiah Love goes there, more power to him. I like Dylan Sampson in this range too. Speaking of guys that fall, we know since the last time we did the big board last week, Jonathan Brooks has climbed significantly. He's climbed around 3 rounds. People are assuming that he's going to come back and be healthy. One of those people was Joe. I think it's a fair assumption to make that he could do pretty well. One of the guys here that I'm really a big fan of, who isn't a rookie, is Brian Robinson. Still young. He's going to get a chance. I think it will be pretty interesting. Likewise, Emmanuel Wilson. I'm not quite sure that Caleb Johnson got a fair shake last year, but he did make a lot of errors. And what I hear from the coaching staff, what we hear from the coaching staff and the players is that he wasn't willing to do the work. And it seems like, Caleb Johnson right here is going to be a hard pass for me at the moment until we see better news. But once we get down into this range here, there's a lot of players who could really smack. One of the names that is being thrown out there a lot is Roman Hemby, from Indiana. I do think that that's an interesting get. And this is where King, you're absolutely right when it comes to the big board. And props to you for getting 9th last year. Is that, a lot of these players, I think when we get to these last rounds, taking shots at these running backs that could absolutely ascend in the rankings. You could get a Jadon Blue. You absolutely could get a Jadon Blue, and he does nothing all year. You could get a Jordan James. And the thing is that a guy like Jordan James here is potentially the next guy up if McCaffrey goes down and they move on from Brian Robinson. So there are some year 2 guys that I am keeping an eye on that aren't rookies. Again, DJ Giddens could get a role, assuming that Tyler Goodson isn't back as well. Isaiah Davis got some looks last year. If Breece Hall moves on and it becomes Braylon Allen and Davis, what will that look like? LaQuint Allen got some good look, not good looks, but good chatter about him in some ways. So he's interesting. And then even here with Le'Veon Moss, any of these guys could really come out of the woodwork. But King, if there's a guy that I'm probably tracking and trying to see where at, it would probably be Emmett Johnson. We can go in and look at the stats for Emmett Johnson here. And, people will say like, hey, I want a 4-year running back. And that's all good and well. But but we want to, let me share this tab here. But we want to take a look at, what have you done for me lately kind of as well. And what we're seeing here that over 3 seasons, his carries went up each of the 3 seasons. We see that he can definitely catch the ball. And we're seeing that he, building off of this season, doubling up and even tripling up where he went to before. I think that Emmett Johnson is one of those guys that you can absolutely target right now in the big board and at the value that a J.K. Dobbins, Kenneth Gainwell, where you don't know what Kenneth Gainwell's situation could be, and Ja'Cory Krosky, Merritt, etc. I think that he and Tyrone Tracy in this range are absolutely guys that you can pivot yourself into because the cost is pretty good. And if Emmett Johnson ends up on a good team with a good pathway, he can absolutely ascend and do the work that needs to be done. Checking out here, Jonah Coleman in the same range. We're looking at a player who, for all intents and purposes, is a guy that's been there, couple of seasons at Washington, couple of seasons at Arizona. He does get those touchdowns, but it's more, I probably will pass on him more often than not, seeing that Emmett Johnson's in that same range. He definitely has the chops to break out a long run, and you can go in and you can look at his clips on, on ESPN, YouTube, etc. But I think that out of the two of those guys, that I'm definitely making sure that I get more Emmett Johnson and a little bit less Jonah Coleman. Now, when we go to Jadarian Price, he might cost a similar value as those other guys, and taking on a lesser role with Jeremiah Love there. But you ask yourself, is this a guy who has the chops to continue to be successful in the NFL? I'm not entirely sure that he's going to go to a team that needs to utilize him right now. It probably will be a similar kind of DJ Giddens situation, waiting for somebody to really drop, rather than going into a right now situation where probably Emmett Johnson will probably get you into that right now situation, King. So he's the guy that I'm probably capitalized on first. And he's going to cost me, and if I want to pivot and get into a Rico Dowdle and then take Emmett Johnson for the little bonus of having a vet and a rookie there, I'm okay with that. I'm definitely not filling my team with all rookies, though. We saw last year that can be really damaging for your team. And then you have Kaytron Allen, okay? A 4-year starter, basically, has the chops, the ability to carry it over 200 times. That receiving number is not necessarily something that is exciting. Did Penn State pass the ball to running back a lot? No, doesn't look like it, not really. But I think that the rushing numbers will make sure that he can see the field with the team. But what I'm really targeting in that range is a pass catching running back with the upside of being able to rock it for, 40-yard gain, 30-yard gain, 50-yard gains, things like that. And I think that all things considered, that Emmett Johnson does fit that bill. Then you take a look down here with Singleton, another Penn State running back. We see that he was more of a pass catcher, but looking here, 123 yards, 549 yards, really up and down here. But like I said, somebody's going to get a good value in the draft, knowing that he's got a broken foot, can't work out the combine, can't do the pro days. So somebody's going to get a tremendous value out of him. And I think that within the draft itself, he's going to fall, and he could turn out really well. And hopefully that happens for him. And Kaytron Allen, like I said, he's probably another one of those guys that we're going to have to wait and see what his pass catching upside can be, but definitely somebody to target in this range. And then, we have Damon Claiborne. And, we can go out and look at all the videos of these players and how they run within the system. And it'll be really important to see how the pro days work out for these guys and how they look at the combine as well, because that's a real telling sign for some of these teams. Another, 3-year starter who has the chops to really extend the play. Has a little bit of receiving upside. So he's another one of those guys. If you're not liking the Brian Robinson, Caleb Johnson, Emmanuel Wilson experience, definitely looking into Claiborne a little bit more. And I'm probably passing on Blue, probably passing on Brashard Smith, although he does have some receiving upside. And then we take a look here at Randall. And these are all guys that I'm willing to take chances on, depending on how I structure my team. We have a 1-year starter, basically. I'm not sure how I feel about that. So he's probably going to be a guy that I pass on, but he does have the pass catching upside to be successful. And then we know about Hemby. And then let's take a look at Seth here in terms of what kind of value we have. So when we look at Seth, 3 different teams putting up around 700 yards doesn't make me very confident. I'm probably passing on him. So why I bring this up, though, is we have talked about this before. And one of the things to keep in mind is that we have talked about going after, and a lot of other people who watch us know that we're okay going into a very late tight end kind of discussion here. But where you're potentially missing out on a lot of value is going after 3 or 4 late tight ends. You're not going to get those pot shots at the late round running backs that could potentially really pop. And when we look at where the value is at for some of these tight ends versus some of these running backs, I'm absolutely most likely passing a lot on Gatson, Strange, Goddard, and I explained why Kittle can be good at some points in time, and Ferguson. I'm passing on a lot of those tight ends in that round to get a couple more of these running backs. Similarly, when we look at the ADPs for some of these wide receivers, and that's probably the range where I'm willing to take a little bit more chances on some wide receivers that are rookies like Concepcion, Elijah Surratt. I'm definitely thinking about taking more chances there in that range with those wide receivers and running backs rather than those tight ends. And if I get, ideally what you want to shoot for is getting that Trey McBride, Brock Bowers tight end, or waiting until the 7th round, because yes, Kyle Pitts' value has fallen. So if I can get Kyle Pitts or Tucker Kraft probably by round 6, round 7, if I've passed on Trey McBride or Brock Bowers, it absolutely opens the door for you that you can take either like a Dalton Schultz or a Colby Parkinson later, and still get a lot of that value out of the running backs. And King, you can tell me if this is how you're thinking as well, but we're going to pop into a big board right now. And if you are interested in popping in as well, we're going to get down to it. So let me pull up our draft, and I'm going to pop into a big board now, and we'll see how it works. So if you're ready, I'm ready. I'm going to get into this big board. Let's get down to business. And so we're waiting for 4 people here. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. So those are some early ramblings and to think about how to approach these rookies. I don't want too many rookies, but I am willing to take more rookie running backs or more year 2 running backs that have decent enough situations moving forward. And even when we look at guys like Braylon Allen, I'm willing to take more chances on players late. And I am not one of those guys. Joe is one of those guys this year that feels like he needs to come out of the first 4 rounds with 2 running backs. I don't necessarily feel that way. I feel like if I get 2 running backs out of the first 4 rounds, that's fine with me. But I am personally okay with targeting some of the running backs in this round, because when we scroll down and we look at those wide receivers that are of the same kind of value, we're looking at, again, Jalen Waddle climbed up the board. The first time we did a big board, we were able to get him and Harrison in like the 6th, 7th round. So they've climbed up pretty exponentially. But I'm okay having Jaylen Warren as my number 2 running back, and then buying into a larger pot of running backs and wide receivers and seeing how that floats, right? So say you want to wait and you want to grab like a Tony Pollard and Jaylen Warren, and then circle back and grab Jonah Coleman. You can, but you can even wait even further and grab Emmett Johnson and KC, and Emmett Johnson and Tyrone Tracy, and I think it's fine to do something like that as well. So we're sitting here in the 10th position. It's a perfect place to take Trey McBride. Trey McBride has kind of been really I wouldn't say a crux in the draft, but it's definitely one of those things where he has skated by until round 2 for some people. And I think that is something to be aware of. And the fact that Brock Bowers is going in round 2, you guys know I'm not a huge fan of Brock Bowers, but the numbers can be undeniable when you look at them. And even after you look at the numbers, knowing that he's going to get a new coach, there's going to be a new play caller, there's going to be a new quarterback, there's going to be a new system. And they know that Brock Bowers is talented. But if you lose out on Brock Bowers, like I said, the Kyle Pitts, Stefanski loves quarterbacks that can throw 2 tight ends. I'm willing to take chances on that. And before he got injured, Tucker Kraft was an amazing asset for Jordan Love. So these are the 3 tight ends that I'm really looking at. And same goes with Sam Laporta. We know that Sam Laporta can be very successful as well. The coach that was the OC of Arizona went up to Detroit. And while I don't think that's wholly good for Detroit, I do think that that's good for a guy like Sam Laporta. I did some little boards. I'll show you some of the little board teams. I told Joe that one of my little board teams was deliciously gross. I started with a Chase running back Higgins, and I got sniped on Joe Burrow in the 6th round, 1 pick before me. So I did go Jaden Daniels, but we'll see. We'll see how this goes. And I am okay taking a guy like James Cook if he stays there, but ideally I would like Amon-Ra here. You guys know that Cook is one of my boys, but I think when we look at everything, when it's all said and done, that it's really important to have a wide receiver that's capable of putting up 20, 25 points a game. And going double running back here, while it gets you those running backs that can put up a lot of points, you are passing on a wide receiver of that caliber. And I don't think that you can do that. I love CeeDee Lamb at 9. I've seen CeeDee Lamb fall to 7, 8, 9, and even 10, to be honest with you. So that's something to kind of keep your eye on. And to be brutally honest here, if I can get Justin Jefferson, they're going to give him a new quarterback. So they just, and Malik Neighbors, I like too, but I'm a little skittish by the injury. So we see that 2 tight ends go. I'll take my Kings in the North. I'm on Ron Jefferson. And you guys know that I'm not a huge, what's happening, family? I'm not a huge J-Jeff fan at the moment. But they've got to fix the quarterback situation. And we know that the coaching staff, the GM just got fired. J.J. McCarthy can't be one for this world. They're going to get a new quarterback. And Justin Jefferson is really pissed that they got rid of Sam Darnold because it's there. I've been having this issue a lot, actually. It goes down to 0, and then it goes like 2 picks at a time. So it's all really important to have your queue up. And, to be honest with you, when I look at this draft right now where the 2 people behind me have tight end, that really situates really well, because when I'm coming back here in the 6th or 7th round, if Kyle Pitts is still available, the odds that they take Kyle Pitts down here is not high. And if I don't get Pitts, like I said, Tucker Kraft is right there. And he tends to go, and like I said, people tend to buy him a little bit earlier too. So it's something to really keep your head on a swivel about. And like I said, I'm not nervous here about running back. There's a potential there is a potentiality here that when we get to my pick, that Kyron will be there and Brees will be there. One of those two guys will be there. And I'm absolutely thankful if one of those guys gets to me. And this third round running back is exactly why I don't need to position myself into 2 running backs fairly early. I can, and I'll show you some drafts where I've done that, but I don't really need to do that. Now, the 3 running backs start, Bijan, Derrick Henry, Bucky Irving, is absolutely something that you can smash. A lot of people are doing it. A lot of people are doing it. It does make it unplayable on a PC without a queue, especially with Sidekick. It's aggravating. And I think also that Sidekick can maybe slow down some computers. So obviously I'm not running the Sidekick. We're just doing it natural here. But I have had a couple of problems with that. So that's why I've got the 2 of them queued up. If I don't get those 2, then I am absolutely okay being into Tet or T at the same point in time. And now Tet didn't have a tremendous season by any means, but knowing that he has the potential to come back this season with Bryce Young, another year under Dave Canales, it can look really good. So parting prize, sure. Garrett Wilson in the 4th round is really interesting. I'm not quite sure what they're doing with their coaching staff there, or if Justin Fields will be coming back. It's definitely something to keep your eye on for sure. And I do fully expect. I do fully expect, you just saw it there where it kind of made some weirdness. I do fully expect Kyron to continue to split with Corum. I'm not quite sure on how much they're going to split, but it's definitely something to keep our eyes on. And if Devontae Adams comes back, hey, that would be wicked. We're going to position these 3 wide receivers here. I like Zay a lot this year, guys. New coaching staff hopefully throws him the ball a little bit more. A.J. Brown is very spicy, though, right here. Super talented. I'm going to stick with, I'm going to stick with Zay. I could have taken A.J. Brown there. Not a huge A.J. Brown guy this year. I'm okay with him in the 4th round. But I like Zay's chances with a new coaching staff a little bit more with a healthy Lamar. People will disagree with that decision. I'm okay with that decision. Again, I like A.J. Brown falling value. You can see where that value is, right? Is that you're looking at three wide receivers now where I have all 3 quarterbacks still open. If I want to, I can turn this into a Laporta team with St. Brown and Goff. I could turn this, if Lamar lasts to me, usually he doesn't last, I could turn this into a Zay Lamar team. And Jefferson, who knows who the quarterback's going to be, but I could get Jefferson and Hawk a little bit later as well. Yeah, I'll see what time allows, because I am solo today with my little man, and currently he is sleeping. So we'll have to see what's going on. Another few days of aggressive dynasty trading. I traded Mahomes to get to 103 in a 2027 second a few months ago. But as Mendoza has become a virtual lock for 1-2, I made a move and traded for Lamar. I love that for you, family. Typically speaking, like I said last year, trading quarterbacks for quarterbacks has tended to burn me. But I think that trading like that is exceptional. Now, this guy here going four wide receivers, Puka, Olave, Nico in the 3rd, McLaurin. I do like that set of wide receivers. All of them have injury concern, though. Popping Jayden Daniels at the 5-2 a little bit early was a necessity to get the stack with Terry. I've gotten that stack before. The only problem with that stack is I don't really know who else to stack it with, because that wide receiver situation is in flux. Debo most likely won't come back. So you're looking at potentially Jalen Lane, Luke McCaffrey coming in to fill in a bigger role this year. Who's their tight end going to be? Because Bates and Ertz are both free agents. Will they bring in Njoku? Will they bring in a vet tight end? I don't know. It's a really big question. Lamar at the 5-4, absolutely something to be fine with. And this is a place where you can start thinking about taking, again, Waddle has been pumped up so much. So Waddle's value actually has kind of tanked for me in a way. Thinking that his value was 6th round, 7th round, and now you've got to take him all the way up here in the 5th round. So somebody else probably has a better Waddle team. But if he lasts to me here, Drake May falling, we know that that was something that could happen. I'm not passing on Waddle here. We're gonna shoot Waddle to the moon there. And then as we're looking to come back, 63, 82, I can still get one of these tight ends. So we might land on Jaylen Warren here maybe, but I also might wait. I'm going to push Marvin Harrison up into the 6th here. I like Marv. I like what his situation could be. So that's where I'm going to go with here. So we have a team right now with Amon-Ra, Justin Jefferson, Zay Flowers, Jalen Waddle, Marvin Harrison, Kyron Williams. We are going to have to do some work in the running back room. Obviously, the tight end room is going to shape up something like this. We might double tap a tight end here in a moment. Thankfully, the quarterbacks that these 3 tight ends are tied to are late quarterbacks. So I don't really have to worry about that. And when people are taking chances on Xavier Worthy and Jordan Addison, I'm going to take my chances probably on Rico Dowdle. Grab, like I said, Emmett Johnson a little bit later. We'll queue those guys up right now. We'll queue up Tyron Tracy. I think he's great value there. We might grab a rookie wide receiver in there. Give me Katron Allen as well. So there's lots of different ways to build out a team. So Joe Burrow goes to the team with T. The running backs there are exceptional. Achane, Barkley, Judkins, Garrett Wilson, Tyron. I've got 5 wide receivers. The guy opposite on the other end has a 1-0-4 build. Actually, the funny thing is, guys, I watched a guy go like no quarterbacks until like round like 17, which is crazy. Malik Willis, Geno, Jadon Blue, a 1/3 and a 1/3 in 2027 for Lamar, and a 2nd in 2027. I love this for you, man, because I'm not a huge Malik Willis believer. I'm definitely not a Geno guy, and Jadon Blue can be who he is. But, you know, for Lamar, that's exceptional. I'm looking at people who take over dead teams and trade away draft disappointments that the previous owners were holding due to draft capital spent, like Caleb Johnson, Benson, Keon Coleman. I think Keon Coleman is just in the wrong situations. Yeah, a 103. Yeah, the 103. Yeah. I think that's fine. I like that. I think that you're getting tremendous value out of the players that you traded to get into Lamar like that, which is crazy good. Here you see Tyler Warren go, Fanning go. I'm not sure that Tyler Warren's value is good right there. I would probably pass on Tyler Warren at that position, to be honest with you. Harold Fannin as well, I would probably pass on. So there goes Jaylen Warren. Sucks. It's all right. No worries. Not upset. Not upset at all. And this is the thing we talked about too with a guy like QJ. QJ could be exceptional, but he might be nothing. Or not nothing, but he could, you know, have a down year if Trey Harris kind of activates himself a little bit more. So I'm probably going to take Monangai or Pollard. Pollard seems to be pretty entrenched here because the other guys on the opposite side of me have tight ends. I don't really need to push push tight end here. I want to get a running back. So I am going to pass on Monungai, I think, to move into Pollard. Just knowing he's been solid. New coaching staff loves solid players. So we're going to draft Pollard. And then probably we'll pivot into Laporta. If Kyle Pitts makes it back, I'm okay with that too. Yeah. See, that's the thing with Njoku. Everybody is waiting to see if everybody's waiting to see what happens with free agency, because he can absolutely be a slam dunk for some team. And there's no doubt in my mind about that. So we have 2 tight ends here. I could have double tapped tight end here, but I wanted that running back to be solid. And we're going to go with, this is tricky here, but I'm going to go with Laporta to get the to get a nice little stack with Jared Goff, hopefully in the later rounds. Now, you guys know that I'm not a huge Goff from a fantasy perspective kind of guy. But it's really interesting that we have an 8th round now, Kyle Pitts. And I'm absolutely more excited about Kyle Pitts in the 8th round than Harold Fannin in the 6th round, and then Colson Loveland in the 3rd round, to be honest with you. So Sam Laporta and Kyle Pitts are absolutely 2 guys that you can smash in the 7th or 8th round. And then draft another tight end a little bit later too. And you can also have one of those top tier tight ends and draft Kyle Pitts or Sam Laporta down here. I probably would have done that over DJ Moore. Probably would have done that over Jawan Jennings. So there goes the stack here with, you got Christian Watson, Tucker Kraft, Jordan Love. Not bad. Not bad. I kind of like that. With Drake London, Javonte, or JMO, Christian Watson, Sutton. Sure. Jackson Dart falling to the 8th. If you remember, Jackson Dart was up here in the 6th, going alongside of Hurts and Burrow. Drake May falling down here to the 6th as well. I think that the values have kind of fixed themselves a little bit more. And people are a little bit more adventurous with quarterback in these 20-round drafts, the early drafts here with the big boards and the little boards. They're a little bit more adventurous. So, taking chances on quarterbacks, I think, is what a lot of people do in this scenario. So you see I have a couple of wide receivers here where I don't know who the quarterback's going to be. Justin Jefferson, Waddle, Marvin Harrison. But it does leave some doors open. So one of these picks is probably going to be Goff. One of these picks is probably going to hopefully be Emmett Johnson. I can wait maybe to the 130. There's a lot of teams without running backs, though, over on this side of the board. So it could be an interesting situation here. And honestly, I like Dalton Kincaid too, guys. So with Goff being the next quarterback up and quarterbacks running out, not necessarily running out, but I bought Sam Laporta over Kyle Pitts. And, Michael Penix is still available. I built an interesting Michael Penix team. We're going to take Goff here. So we have a minor stack there. Goff, Laporta, Amon-Ra. I think that 2 players with a 2-1 is good right now. I'll get to that question after I make this next pick. So I only have 2 running backs on the roster. We're going to see if we can push one of these above ADP, or you know what? We're actually going to double tap tight end here very soon after we took Laporta. I think that Dalton Kincaid being hurt for most of the year, Joe Brady, taking over as head coach and being the play caller here, I'm definitely vulnerable only having 2 running backs, but I am going to pop a couple running backs soon. So we have in the first year that Dalton Kincaid was on the team, we have 91 targets, 75 targets, and then 49 targets played in 13 and 12 games the last 2 years. If he plays a full 16 games or full 17 games, I think he's going to do really well. And the fact is that they do run the ball primarily in the red zone, which is where a lot of value is lost with Dalton Kincaid. But I'm willing to take those 2 chances up here on the tight end to come back and circle back and get some good shit on the back end. How do you see the Carolina backfield shaking out? Dowdle gets a chance to start like Javonte. Chuba goes back to running back 1. I think that it probably goes Chuba and then Brooks and Dowdle's gone, to be honest with you. It is a very likely scenario where Rico Dowdle is not going to be back on the Carolina Panthers next year. So keep that in mind. Joe Mixon, for me, is a guy, I think that, when we look at his career, he's always been a guy that really makes his money in the red zone from a touchdown perspective. We haven't got any new news. That's the thing that's not good. We haven't gotten any news. But if I'm willing to take a chance on that, I would. So we just lost Johnson there. That's fine. We're going to post Tyrone and Katron at the turn here if they are available to us. Katron a little bit lower value. We're going to pull him up to the 135 if we have the availability to do that here. This will also be a team where I'm probably going to try with Shedeur. I might get a Shedeur, Jerry Jeudy in here. I think Jerry Judy's a guy, along with Isaiah Bond, that it's really something that to keep your eye on, just because the coach that is now in Cleveland wanted Shedeur to be on Baltimore. And Shedeur has said that, he's ready to go to work. And if he can clear up a lot of things, I mean, that's good with me. The reason I go Tracy there is that Harbaugh does like to use multiple running backs. And with Scadaboo having some issues health-wise, I think that Tyrone Tracy is a good value there. I absolutely would take him over Mendoza, Willis, Brisket. I mean, I think that's crazy pushing those up the board like that. And we're going to take Katron Allen here. So we have 4 running backs caught up a little bit. Jared Goff, Kyron, Tony Pollard, Tyrone Tracy, Katron Allen. We'll put a couple more rookies on this team. Amon-Ra, Justin Jefferson, Zay, Waddle, Marv, Sam Laporta, Kincaid. And like I said, the only thing that worries me about Dalton Kincaid is that touchdown market. But if he can become a better touchdown market, this 10th round will be way too low for him. Yeah, Goff is really hard to value. Some feel he lost a step and might slowly fade to mid. Others think he will bounce back. Honestly, I think he's just mid in the first place. I don't really, if I didn't have Amon-Ra and Sam Laporta, I would probably avoid Jared Goff. So you're seeing right now, like, how that would look if you just kind of pivot and take into that. There are still quarterbacks on the board, like I said, that I am okay with having. Penix is one of them. Shedeur is one of them. I mean, new coach. I mean, come on. These kids are going to get a chance to play. And you're taking Malik Willis and Brisket above them. We'll see if Brisket has a job. And like I said, with Mixon, I'm willing to take a gamble depending on where he falls. If I can get him in the 15th, 16th round, sure. And that's the reason why going tight ends a little bit earlier. We see Aronde Gadsden here fall to the 10th when he's been drafted as high as the 7th. So crazy, interesting value. I don't feel the entire need to take 3 quarterbacks in this range. Juwan to the Shook owner makes sense. We also have Dak with Ferguson. That all tracks with me. Having a couple wide receivers here that haven't really shown what they need to. Does make me a little nervous for a couple players here. So we see, like I said, that Jerry Jeudy is there, so we might double tap wide receiver here with a rookie and then Jeudy. Depends on how this shakes down. We have a lot of running backs still on the market. Sean Tucker still on the market. Braylon Allen still on the market. Brooks still on the market. Dylan Sampson still on the market. So we could go with that ugly, ugly, ugly Cleveland stack if we really wanted to. You guys know that Rashid Shaheed, we're a big fan of Rashid Shaheed on the show. So, there is that. We could buy into that value of Shaheed for sure. Hey, Joe has a hard time believing that, he has a hard time believing that Shedeur could be good. But I am willing to invest if investment is needed. So we have Surratt, first rookie wide receiver on this team. So as I said, I'm not overloading on rookies. I'm taking chances where we need to go. These are ugly running backs. You're right, family. There's no denying it. Okay. And this could be a year where the running backs really where you make a team and you need those top 10 running backs drafted to really make it stronger, right? There goes Jerry Jeudy, there goes Shaheed. I'm really interested in how Mark Andrews is valued as well. Just to keep your head on a swivel about that one, guys. All right, so there goes Singleton. Not the value that I would want yet on him. So we have Jerry Jeudy, Surratt. It lasts 2 rounds. I'm okay with that. And I believe that. He wants to come back bigger and stronger and better than ever. And Woody wasn't that good. And I have a couple of teams with Woody on it. So if I have to move into a Joe Mixon, I'm okay with that as well. Seeing this board, we have 2 quarterbacks, 2 quarterbacks, 2 quarterbacks, 2 quarterbacks, 2 quarterbacks, 3, 2, 1. The time for Shedeur is coming. If he's still available in the 16th or the 17th round, I will take him. I might even double tap quarterback here with Penix and Shedeur and see what happens. But we'll see how Mixon goes here. Yeah, if you're buying in Dynasty, no news is good news. Absolutely. What's the dream landing spot for Willis? Probably Miami. You would want what your dream landing spot would be a team that has a good offensive line, because I think he still needs a lot of time for processing things. I mean, he wasn't good in Tennessee. And then all of a sudden, now he's gotten the treatment as a couple other quarterbacks that were kind of like one-year wonders, like Matt Flynn. He needs to have a good offensive line. So that's ultimately where I would want him at. Yeah, that's fair. If opportunity presents itself, I will do that. If you have Mark Andrews in Dynasty, he is a guy that, all right, so there goes Shedeur. It is what it is. Poor little Shedeur over there at 15-1. I think that's a little high for him, personally. So I could have went Pitts, getting Penix potentially here. I would position myself in the Penix. It's a little sad I didn't get Shedeur, His value kind of climbed up the board. We still have Tajay sitting there, Jordan Mason sitting there, Aaron Jones sitting here. So you could see how this room values those 3 guys. Not much, right? They don't value them much at all. So there's Tajay. So we'll push these 2 guys up. Seeing these four they're probably not going to take a quarterback. I'm actually really shocked that Shooter went there. Build out the little build that I had there. I don't know. I think that when we look at Malik Willis, the Steelers' offensive line it's okay. Like it's not anything that I'm like super excited about. The biggest question is will Tua be back in Miami? Will he get another job? The Mac Jones experience. Will the what will the Vikings do? That's my biggest thing. So the biggest thing for me is what will the Vikings do? Because they can't possibly continue to go back to JJ McCarthy. They can't do it, right? They cannot do it. If they continue to do it, that will be a huge problem for them. All right, so we're going to go Joe Mixon here. So shout out to Corey in the house getting Joe Mixon. So we have Kyron, Tony Pollard, Tyrone Tracy, Katron Allen, Joe Mixon. It's gross. And there have been teams, because this is 20 rounds, where I've taken, like the guy across from me, 7 running backs to just say, I took my first one late, and I'm just going to keep popping shots at running back. And that's probably what I'm going to do the next 2 rounds. I have 2 tight ends. I have 2 quarterbacks. The next quarterback that I take will probably be Ty Simpson. Will the Vikings run it back with Kirk Cousins? That's a very good question. I don't know. Will they go with a rookie? Will they bring in Jameis Winston? Will Garrett Nussmeier from LSU be relevant this year? What about Will Howard from the Steelers? There's a lot of question marks about how this will roll out. With Tua, will Tua be the quarterback for Miami? It's looking like maybe not. He's still signed. Will they trade him? Will happen. So I'm kind of curious about a guy like Tua. They got Quinn Ewers. Do they like Quinn Ewers? That's a big question mark. I don't know if they liked him or not. So we have Chamari Dyke, Torrey Horton. I like both of those guys. Horton could absolutely lose his job. Or not Horton, Dyke could lose his job. So, that's a big question mark. It's a big question mark for me. We might be able to roll into Randall here if we wanted to. But again, like I said, I'm not a big fan of just going after one-year wonder players. So we'll see. Emmanuel Wilson had a good look last year. Could jump into him. I'm looking at Jordan James as well. So here, I'm actually going to go with Colby Parkinson here, just because the Rams are using all those tight ends in the set. Get a third tight end there to cover up maybe the deficits of Kincaid with the touchdown market. And then we have 3 more rounds. We're going to get a quarterback here. I love Gunnar Helm. We're going to get a third quarterback somewhere in this draft. You guys call which quarterback we want to get. So we're going to go Jordan James to get 6 running backs here. Kyron, Tony Pollard, Tyrone Tracy, Katron Allen, Joe Mixon, Jordan James. I'm willing to take chances. I like Malik Washington too here, guys, just to be honest. Took a big chance in one, sent Mac Jones, who I see staying, and Rashard Smith to take the chance on Benson. I think Benson is fine. I'll make it bigger. Freed up a slot for free agency, so add Mariota. Yeah, Mariota's a guy that could start somewhere. He's pretty good. So quarterbacks right now, we're looking at Ty Simpson. We're looking at Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers, Tua, Mac Jones, Richardson, Mariota, Justin Fields. I did take Justin Fields in the draft recently, just to tell you guys that. Chambliss, Winston, Ewers, Russell Wilson, surprisingly, Nussmeier, Bagent, Geno, Drew Lock, Will Howard, Davis Mills, Riley Leonard. Absolutely not Carson Beck. Absolutely not Carson Beck. So Jared Goff and Michael Penix, it doesn't strike fear into the eyes of many. People are saying they're going to move on from Tua. I don't know if I believe that or not. But I do have Jalen Waddle. So willing to take some chances there. And in this build, I have 7 wide receivers. We need to start 3 and usually 4. So is the 6 running backs do I have? Are they good enough? I don't think so. So I'm probably going to build this without an 8th wide receiver and put it into the 8th running back. So let me know who you guys want to see on this team in terms of running back or wide receiver. So which running back or which wide receiver do you guys want to see on this team? Yeah, Cousins could go back to Minnesota. He absolutely could. They need a quarterback. Will it? Vikings reunion incoming? You know, he's very old though. That's the only problem with Kirk. He's 37 years old. We do have Joe Mixon in there, guys. We do have Joe Mixon in our team. So the question here, do we go Tua to go with Waddle? Or do we take a chance on old man Kirk Cousins that he doesn't retire and go with our boy J. Jeff? That's a big question mark. So who do you guys think? Kirk Cousins or Tua to go along with one of those wide receivers that we have on our team? Yeah, Gainwell is one of the players that we did talk about, and I have taken Gainwell. So it's either going to be Tua or Kirk here. I'll press Tua. Future in Miami uncertain. Okay, I'll believe that when I see it. I'll believe it when I see it. Tua's been able to show that he can throw up 30 points in a game. All right, so now 3, we don't want another quarterback. Let's take those quarterbacks off. So now we need a running back. Who do we go with at running back, guys? Let's go with national champion Roman Hemby. Let's take a chance on him. So this team, definitely not bad. A team that if Joe was here, Joe would absolutely be pumping into running backs a little bit earlier than I did. And again, it's just showing you something different that you could do. You know, we've done a bunch of these drafts before. So it shows you another opportunity of how to build a team. We have a 3-7-7-3. And sometimes those makeups in the big board are important, getting that extra quarterback. You guys saw me wait last Monday or Wednesday on a quarterback. You could do that too. It's not gonna be the end of the world waiting on quarterbacks sometimes. So this is how the room finishes out. I do want to see a couple other rookies. And again, you only need 1 injury, 2 injuries maybe for a rookie running back to really kind of get into the spotlight. So I am kind of excited about that. I think Miami should roll with Tua unless they make a swap with the Cardinals with picks and quarterbacks. I think that could be fine for a guy like Tua. Tua needs to change the scenery. He's already got a new coach, so I think that's fine. Willis will be selected where he signs. I feel Tua can go anywhere they want him. Tua's a good enough quarterback that he can do that. Joe, at one point in our lives, we've besmirched Tua enough, but I think that really has to do with McDaniel more than anything else. I was really chapped about how they handled that situation with the concussions. The Jets' job is wide open as well. Will they roll back into Justin Fields? Because Justin Fields just shows that he's not a good quarterback. That is a question mark to really be aware of. So again, this is a draft where we're not pot shotting tight ends in these last couple of rounds. I'm not going to do that in these drafts today. We're going to rack up another one. So anybody that wants to join, we're going to rack up another big board right now. So if you do want to join, yeah, he's not necessarily plug and play just because of the way that he plays, but he can be coached if the system is right. And Jacoby Brissett, while he's not a phenomenal quarterback by any stretch of the imagination, he was a great fantasy quarterback. And I think that Tua in the right situation can be that as well. I mean, the guy can put up, like I said, 28 points, 30 points a game. So, I mean, but I believe when we look at, with Arizona particularly, when we look at Arizona, they had to deal with Kyler Murray and his shortness. So, I mean, Kyler Murray was also a left-handed quarterback. So thinking about Arizona already being prepared to have a left-handed quarterback, then Arizona already having a shorter left-handed quarterback, then having Tua on that team really could be excellent for that team. I think it's something to really be aware of. So, Mick, if you're in here, let me know. I'm racking up a big board right now. If anybody in the chat wants to join, I'm racking up the big board right now. This will be the second and last big board of the day. So keep that in mind as we go through it. And again, this one could be a little bit different as well, depending on where we land and how how things shake down. But I'm absolutely not pushing back or away from really just being as flexible as I can, and not saying that I need to leave the draft. That's what I'm saying, family. And I think that's what Corey's probably getting at too. If you can go to Arizona and you can see over the line, just think of how much better Arizona could be. You saw Tua with Jonnu, and they made Jonnu fantasy relevant, okay? So you look at Tua, who could have Trey McBride, Michael Wilson, and Marvin Harrison Jr., if they get a solid running back room that's not often injured back there, I'm telling you guys, and Corey, I appreciate you pointing that out too, right? Is that if he goes to Arizona, they'll protect him. He could be he could be their next franchise guy. I'm okay with that, right? All right, so we're racking up this one here. I don't see Mick in here. It happens. It happens, Mick. So if anybody who is in the chat is in here right now, let me know. I don't see anybody that we've drafted with before. So this third pick, this is always going to be Jamar Chase for me, guys. If Jamar Chase is on the board at the third pick, I am clicking Jamar Chase more often than not. Would you send a late third in Dynasty to get Coleman on the cheap? Early talks of a JJ deal. I see Coleman in that trade. If Coleman is off the team, I think he could be better somewhere else. He has the skill set to be good. But will he? That's the biggest question. And Tua gets the ball out quick. That would increase Marvin Wilson's role. Exactly. That's why I like that. That's why I like that idea there. Okay, so Jamar fell to second, so we'll take Puka. Why not? Why not? That's a good parting gift. But again, Jamar the third hole, if he makes it to you at 3, I think is a much better grab than Gibbs. And you guys know I love Jahmyr Gibbs, and I love all the players in this draft, to be quite honest with you. But it's looking like more and more that Stafford is coming back, so it makes it more comfortable to take a guy like Puka. Um, Puka had a phenomenal year this year. We know that. Chad Candle's in this draft, a best ball bro. All right. Hopefully he's streaming it too. See who he gets. See if he's streaming. He got Christian McCaffrey. Love it. You know, and to be honest with you, I'm probably not shying so much away from Christian McCaffrey to be honest. But like I said, it really depends on who is there at that point in time. You got Justin Jefferson there. I really like getting Amon-Ra and Justin Jefferson, calling the team Kings of the North. James Cook at the 12. Ashton Genty, so going double running back. In this Puka slot, if Bowers makes it to me, as I said earlier, I will smash the button for Brock Bowers. Chase Brown, a little bit undervalued as well. The question is, will he get the majority of the carries again? Will he get the majority of the pass catching work? We need to think about that. Yeah, and I agree with that, family. If somebody pays me enough in Dynasty to move off Puka, they're going to have to pay you a king's ransom or a double king's ransom, to be quite honest with you. But if they do that, yeah, I would sell them too. Just because the situation is so in flux. And the fact that if Stafford goes down, that situation changes drastically. And he's no longer, would be that nice pivot point. I have seen Drake London fall, guys, and I know why, and Joe will say the same thing. But I think that you gotta regatta sometimes. And I've seen Brock go in the third round sometimes. I don't know if this is the draft that will happen to. There's a couple of players that I still like here on the big board. I'm probably passing on Chris Olave more often than not in the third round. And I get the talent of Rashee Rice, but I just can't go into the season knowing that, again, that my third round guy is out. So we have Saquon and Derrick Henry here coming around. And I'm probably going to get into Derrick Henry if he lasts to the next pick. I'm a Derrick Henry stan. Yeah. And again, old guy alert, right? But I am a Derrick Henry stan, and I will go down with that ship if I need to. So here's a draft where we're going to have to maybe pivot a little bit and see how the draft takes us. Nico and George. I'm a little bit more confident in George Pickens, to be honest with you, rather than Nico, to possibly run it back with Dak. But we'll see how the room thinks about that. So there's Chris Olave going. And I could buy into there we go. Perfect. I would much rather take George Pickens there, knowing that he has the chance to really be phenomenal. You see any of the current Las Vegas wide receiver core stepping up with Mendoza? Yeah, I think Trey Tucker does. I think that Trey Tucker absolutely has the chops to do that. He showed that he could ball out in a game or two. How long does he carry that out through the whole season? Clint Kubiak is most likely going to be the head coach there. I mean, how could you not like that situation? They're probably going to go after a wide receiver in free agency, maybe a Romeo Doubs level wide receiver to bring some veteran stability to the team. I think that's nice. Yeah, if Stafford were to retire, and he's not saying that he is retiring at this moment in time, but if he does retire, it's going to get real spicy. What they said was that, what Adams jokingly said in an interview with the press was that when Stafford retires, he'll probably retire. But Stafford goes, I'm not retiring yet. Stafford was so close to retiring. He was. But then he got so close to being in a Super Bowl again, right? Or he got so close to being in this Super Bowl that I think that he wants that magic. I like this team of CD, Drake London, Tet. So we see that Chad, best ball bro, going Christian McCaffrey, Jeremiah Love, Ken Walker. So subscribing to the gotta get more running backs early in this draft than not. And you can see how that pushes down the value of some of those wide receivers, but it also changes the value of other running backs. I'm okay with my team right here. Like I said, I don't draft a lot of George Pickens, to be honest with you. Usually, and this is the thing too, depending on who's there. Derrick Henry doesn't land on my team that much either. Just because there have been times where other wide receivers have skated down here. But I am very confident in Brees, very confident in Bucky, very confident in Ken Walker, and very confident in Kyron Williams to be productive, that I really don't have to smash this. But I got George Pickens anyway, and I'm fading Nico right now. I know it might not be super super relevant when all things are said and done. So we have Chad here going 4 running backs in a row. 4 in a row, Corey. How do you feel about that? 4 in a row. I have a team here, family said, with Puka, Amon-Ra, Tet, and Olave. Do you just roll with them? Is there anyone you would move off on? Honestly, I'm probably moving off of Olave with the concussions in Dynasty. I'm probably moving off of Olave with the concussions in Dynasty, if I'm being honest. So here we go with this Garbaggio again, where it stops working. Terry's a guy that I like to go with often. There goes Devonta Smith. This is a tricky one for me. We're going to push Lamar. I didn't get Zay, but running it back with Lamar and Derrick Henry. If Lamar is successful, Derrick Henry probably has had a great game as well. So you can see this team's a little bit different. It's a little bit different. And I've built out a lot of teams with Judkins. This is going to open the door to potentially have Judkins again. Judkins goes right there. And I can take some of those rookie guys. I like Christian Watson as well. We went Waddle last time. We'll go Terry this time. So we have a team of Lamar, Derrick Henry, Puka, George Pickens, and Derrick Henry. I love Igbuka at the 411, but I also like Jalen McMillan. I think Jalen McMillan is a steal this year, to be honest with you. Nico's good fade with the Tank Dell reemergence and Jane Higgins building on year 2. And he hasn't gone over 200 points in the last 2 years. So I'm not really seeing it. I'd rather have Tet. I'd rather have Garrett Wilson. I'd rather have, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith. I was really hoping Devonta Smith made it for me there. There's a legit cliff after Olave, Malik Washington, or Iamena is what I got after. Okay. I tried to go for Devonta and a QB3 for Olave, but people said I'd be nuts. Again, Olave's had how many concussions in his career, just like Tua, okay? And we're drafting him in the 3rd round of these best ball drafts. Again, he had a phenomenal season last year. That's undeniable. It's undeniable that he had a phenomenal season last year, okay? And that's what Tyler Shook. He had 100 receptions, okay? I get it. I want to get in on that. But he has ceiling, and I get why his ceiling is where it's at. I get it. But it does make me fairly nervous, if I'm being honest, right? So here we still have Derrick Henry. The question that we do, and this is always the question with Lamar, is we went Lamar round 4. We have Terry McLaurin. If Jaden Daniels makes it back to us, do we take a shot on Jaden Daniels? And the value of the whole draft probably will be Jalen Hurts in the 7th round. So these are the next 3 guys up here on my list. We could easily take Kyle Pitts if we want to. I'm not going to push Kyle Pitts in this draft necessarily, seeing where he fell last draft into the 8th. But we'll see. I'm just really interested. What do you guys think I should do here? Do we go Lamar and Jane Daniels if Jane Daniels makes it? You know? Yeah, 3rd round Olave, even 2nd round Olave. Okay, so Jane Daniels goes. I like Shook. All right, so we didn't get Jane Daniels. That's fine. That's okay. We're going to go with Marv here. Again, going with Marv as our 4th wide receiver. I like DK as a 4th wide receiver, 3rd wide receiver as well. Should have went Jaylen Warren. Thought he might make it back to me. Guy has 4 running backs. A little bit of thought, maybe. Here, it's either going to be Kyle Pitts or Ramondre. All right. Do we want Ramondre on this team or Kyle Pitts, guys? I think we need a running back. All right. We're going to go with Ramondre here. It's not necessarily that I absolutely love Ramondre. He was a steal later last year, but, you know, yeah, Shook. I love Pitts. I do. I'm really curious how people feel about Kyle Pitts this year, because we just saw him fall to the 8th round last draft. Sam Laporta and Tucker Kraft still available on the board as well. So if worse comes to worse, we'll shake into one of those 3 tight ends. Tight end is going to be taken. There are going to be tight ends taken in the next 12 picks. I might not get any of them, but I also know that the 2 guys next to me aren't taking them. So there's that. Marv does open up taking Tua if we believe that case. I'm okay with that. But back to the Shook thing. I really think that I do love Tyler Shook. And Joe, you know that Joe loved Tyler Shook last year as well. He was one of our 20th round guys in the DraftKings tournaments. And I think that when you have Shook and Olave, and I think that that's what this person's setting up to do, quite honestly, is when you take Olave that high and Drake May, then you can pivot yourself into Shook much later. And I think that's why people build it. I don't think you're going to see a lot of Lamar Jackson, Terry McLaurin teams. You're going to see more so Jane Daniels, Terry McLaurin teams. You know, it's a good position to be in right now with 4 wide receivers. I think that Patrick Mahomes down here is a great value. He's probably going to go Xavier Worthy here. Tucker Kraft. Okay. So we might get locked out of a tight end. It's fine. It happens. We'll put up a Manungai, a Rico Dowdle here. Pot shot a couple of these running backs. Like we said, we could take a Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, sit on Emmett Johnson. Emmett Johnson, the next round is probably where he's going to come around. Like I said, I do love taking Tyrone Tracy as well. Now, our wide receivers aren't as excellent in this draft for sure as they were prior, but they're still phenomenal. So Puka, George Pickens, McLaurin, Harrison. I like Michael Pittman this year. I think that Michael Pittman does get moved. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. But I think that Michael Pittman and QJ are really good values here in the 8th round so far. And depending on what we hear in the offseason with Keenan Allen, Trey Harris, the QJ could probably even climb up there. So Sam Laporta doesn't get to us. That's fine. We'll take Dak to go with George. So we're going to be done at quarterback there. We opened ourselves up to Dak and George Pickens. So we'll open ourselves up to Ferguson later. Hopefully, looking at the board, will Ferguson make it back to us? I hope so. but I am going to go Dowdle here if Dowdle is available to us. And I like Jordan Addison as well. But again, looking at the quarterback room, I'm not 100% sure what's going to happen there. So I have built some Jordan Addison teams with J. Jeff, or trying to get J. Jeff as well. And, you know, if I'm being like brutally honest, right, is that we've looked at Bo Nix in the 9th and the 10th round, guys. I mean, that's crazy. The kid can ball. Okay. So if you want to use your opportunity at quarterback, and he's one of the reasons why you don't necessarily have to take Lamar in the 4th round, or Caleb Williams in the 6th round, or Drake May in the 5th round, because Bo Nix is sitting there at round 9. He's going to put up phenomenal numbers during some games and then terrible numbers other games. So, you know, that's kind of what we're looking at out of that room right there. I'm avoiding Jayden Reed. Hard avoid on Jayden Reed this year, guys. Where am I with Jaylen Warren? Love Jaylen Warren. I don't know what the coaching staff thinks of Jaylen Warren, but Mike McCarthy likes running the ball. So if Mike McCarthy is running the ball, it's going to come with Jaylen Warren. Jaylen Warren is going to be heavily involved. And I think that when it comes down to when we have this season start, that we're going to learn a lot about what Mike McCarthy thinks about Jaylen Warren very, very soon. I like Gainwell. Caleb Johnson, I'm a little bit uneasy about because, again, they said that he's not really studying. But if I'd rather hold Jaylen Warren than move into QJ, if I'm being honest. I got burnt on him as well. He had a couple good games, but then we got destroyed, just straight up, just dropped on our heads with Jordan Addison. I made a horrible trade in the season to go after Judkins and Lamar, and I overpaid for Lamar, and he, you know, coming back from injury, and that really screwed us. So next year we'll be better with that. We won't make stupid trades just because we like a player. You guys know I love Quinshon Judkins, and I think he's going to do phenomenal this year as well. I think in round 5 that he's a running back that I really like in round 5. And to be honest, if I started my team's running backs with Judkins and Warren, and the first 4 rounds were Brock Bowers and 3 other wide receivers, I'm not mad about that. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay? Like, I can't say that enough. This guy's got a Parker Washington, Trevor Lawrence, Brenton Strange to go with Josh Allen. Fair. I like it. It's good. All right. So I think we have to push Ferguson here. We only have 3 running backs. Again, it's not for the faint of heart. It really isn't. But we're gonna go tight end here because we're seeing that this guy right here doesn't have tight end. He could play around with Dallas Goedert, George Kittle if he wants. He's probably taking Shook. Right. And really, Tyler Algier landing spot is really going to be important too because he can play. I mean, he's a good running back. So we'll take Johnson, get a little rookie love, a little bit ahead of that ADP, and that's fine because I think that's probably where he ends up at is great. Judkins is a great player worth trading for. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Judkins. Like I said last year, though, the trade I made was pretty bad. I was selling my shares of Tyler Warren and Pittman, and then I was also selling my shares of Breece Hall after his big game. And I traded those 3 guys for Lamar and Judkins. And then 2 weeks later, I ended up picking up friggin' Matt Stafford off the waiver wire because one of my friends ended up dropping him because he needed some bye week situations. And I would have been better off just waiting until that happened because Breece and Pittman ended up tearing off a couple good games. right after that, and it just crushed me. I did make the playoffs, but I didn't really do anything after that. Sent Addison for Keenan. Cup in a third, was a win now, and was just hoping to catch lightning in the bottle with one of the older guys. I think it's fair that when you're in Dynasty, if you want to catch lightning in the bottle with the old guys, it's perfectly fine. Yeah, getting that third round pick, yeah, or getting the third is phenomenal. 110 and a mid 2027. I like that. I'm unsure of what Harvey's long-term value is. He is older. And I get why people don't want to take RJ Harvey, because RJ Harvey could end up where J.K. Dobbins is just going to do J.K. Dobbins again and be good enough if they bring him back. He said he wants to be a Bronco for the rest of his years. I don't know if I entirely believe that. But I do think it's something to think about when we look at all these situations. So just, keep your head on a swivel. And like I said, I like Jalen McMillan as well here. So I'm going to load up those three into the queue. And I'm perfectly fine with Jerry Jeudy. I know Jerry Jeudy sucks. Like, I know he's not that great of a player, but what I'm looking at here is targets. He is getting over targeted, and this was the year with Joe Flacco. If they can get Shedeur to play competently, smash. Especially as a wide receiver 5 on your team. Smash. Okay. So we might double tap running back here and then hope for some wide receivers a little bit later. Or I might get into Jalen McMillan and Jerry Jeudy right here, because 166 will not give me Jerry Jeudy. So the question is, which running back do I take? Which wide receiver do I take? Or do I take 2 running backs? Yeah, I think it's fine. I honestly think it's fine to buy into RJ Harvey right now. His value is still pretty low. He is going to be a bit touchdown dependent, but what do you want to do, right? All right, so we're going to go Tyrone here. And then seeing that Katron Allen got taken, we'll plug in whatever one of these wide receivers that we want. A Jerry Jeudy opens the door to possibly Shedeur instead of Tua if we want. And we are gonna have to push another tight end here. I'm actually shocked that guy didn't take Jonnu when all things are said and done. So let's we'll pump into Jalen McMillan here, because I do think that Mike Evans is not going to have his best season. And Jalen McMillan, and like I said to Joe on Wednesday, Jalen McMillan is one of those guys that he basically almost died on the field with his neck injury. Comes back, and in one of his first games back, gets over 100 yards. I mean, kid's a beast. He's my wide receiver 5. So, a little bit of a weaker name, wide receiver 5, but I think if they can get that offensive coordinator situation figured out there, smash. And again, I like Jerry Jeudy as well. Joe doesn't. And you saw me draft 2 Jets or 3 Jets last time. I'm not sure if that's like something that I want to continue to do. But I am willing to take a chance here on Braylon Allen. Dalton Schultz is going to be queued up on this team most likely. Again, if I would have been able to get Kyle Pitts, we could have queued up another Michael Penix. This is probably going to be a Tua team. Colby Parkinson, and I get that Colby Parkinson and Terrence Ferguson are probably going to vie for more touchdowns this year between the two of them. But I think that Colby Parkinson, they're changing coordinators and a lot of things are changing there. But I do think that it's worth really looking into, to be quite honest with you. And Will Jake Tongas get a majority of those looks? While was Baker an injury issue, or fame? I think it's a little bit of both potentially. But also he's on his like 40th offensive coordinator. 40th, like, I mean, it's just the guy has not had good luck in terms of that. But you know, in best ball, I'm willing to take chances on those Tampa guys. And I'm willing to take more chances on Jalen McMillan than I am on Emeka Egbuka. I think that I really like, you guys know this, I really like Emeka Egbuka. But fourth round, when I'm looking at Chris Godwin, round 10, when you're looking at Mike Evans, round 5, when you're looking at Jalen McMillan, round 13, I think that in best ball, particularly, that Jalen McMillan is a better value. Now, will I have some teams with those guys on it? Yeah. But it also comes down to what's the best makeup for the team. So like if I'm sitting here and I need a wide receiver, do I have to push in Emeka Egbuka? No, not necessarily. You know, there's a lot of things that you can look into thinking about that. This could be another Joe Mixon team. Joe Mixon as our 6th running back? Sure. So there goes Braylon Allen. Do we want to take a chance on Jonathan Brooks this time? Nah, I don't know how I necessarily feel about that. I might push. So there goes Trey Harris. We're probably going to double tap running back here. Maybe. Dalton Schultz is still on my purview. So I am going to take Schultz. Maybe, you know, he's like the, you know, we'll take Joe Mixon. We'll take Joe Mixon there. He's our running back 6. It's an ugly room, another ugly room, but things happen. Things happen for a reason. We have Lamar, so I'm going to shoot for likely here over Dalton Schultz. And again, I'm not buying Mark Andrews at the moment. We'll push likely here. And here's a fun fact about Lamar, right? Is that most of the touchdowns that have been caught by tight ends, you know, Lamar has thrown a significant amount of touchdowns to tight ends. So while we didn't get Zay Flowers, we did get Lamar and likely. And, you know, I'm probably going to shoot my shot in the 20th round with this guy. You know, not something to be like super excited about. He may never be the high target, but when I'm looking for upside and I'm looking for a 6th, 7th wide receiver and I've got Lamar, if Lamar does decide to throw the ball, cake. So there you go, Trey Tucker. I think Trey Tucker's at a great value in the 15th round. Forgot he was there. I would have taken him. I think people don't trust the post Liam Cohen Bucks, but they are pretty banged up overall. They were hurt a lot last year. Their offensive line was shit. Tristan Wirfs was out for a lot of games that last season. Bucky got hurt last season. They had to bring in Tucker and Rachaad White. The wide receiver room was banged up. It was terrible. I mean, they did not have the assets that they needed to be relatively successful. Okay. So it's like, if you bet on McMillan here, like you're saying, Corey, you know, his injury was the freakiest of the injuries that happened to those wide receivers. It's not an ankle. He's not dealing with an arm. He's not dealing with ankles. It was his neck. And the kid can still ball out. So, I mean, 13th round. Tank Dell, 16th round. You know, he could be a dead asset. You know, if he doesn't come back and ball out. But I think that willing to take more chances on that more than anything else, right? Here we have Tesla. Tesla just went, just put him in the queue. I like to slow, right? I'm okay with jumping in on something like that where there's going to be some opportunities. This is probably the room that we're looking at right now, adding that third tight end if Ninjoku lasts us. I love Gunnar Helm. Gunnar Helm and Cam Ward, I think, are going to be very successful this year. So this guy with a Cam Ward, Tajay Spears, Chamari Dyke, and Gunnar Helm, that's gross. Chad. I love it, but it's gross. Absolutely disgusting. And I'm here for it. I'm absolutely here for something like that. And because I have Lamar and Dak, I could pass on a third quarterback this time and go after a better grouping of wide receivers. So we're going to position ourselves probably into Brian Robinson here. Again, is it something that I'm gonna buy a lot of? Maybe not. But any of these guys could smack. So here, do I take a chance on Ferguson? Do we go with Mason Taylor? I think Mason Taylor, above all of them, probably has a legitimate shot to really come back and do some work. So, you know, I think that we're going to go Mason. Yeah, we'll go Mason there. I haven't drafted a lot of Mason. He was my boy last year. So we'll go with him this year. Hey, as Joe has said, never drink and draft. You know, it doesn't matter if you're doing 150 drafts or not. Never drink and draft. If you go back to some of our early videos, we were drinking and drafting, and it did not turn out well. But this is a sign. Don't do that. When you have more than 2 Tennessee Titans players, don't do that. When you have more than 3 Tennessee Titans players, don't do that. I love Brock Purdy in the 9th. We'll say that. But going Rodgers over Michael Penix when you have Kyle Pitts, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, I've done stupid things too, but that doesn't make any sense to me. So we'll queue down Ferguson, and we're going to punish a couple of wide receivers here. We got 7 running backs, 2 quarterbacks. Chat, and you could tell me, guys, do you think we should stay with just Lamar and Dak, or do we take a third quarterback, or do we push another? We're only sitting at 5 wide receivers. Do we push 3 wide receivers here in the hopes that one of them can smack, or do we go with a third quarterback in the hopes that that if we need to, we can, will Keon Coleman go somewhere? I don't know. Do we go with Ryan Flournoy to pair up with, take a chance on Flournoy to go with George Pickens here and Ferguson, banking on another injury? Do we go Bateman? Will Bateman have a resurgence? I do know, though, that I am going to put up here Darnell Mooney. Not because I think that he's like an exceptional talent at this point in time, but he was injured at the beginning of last season, never really got off on the right foot, has had the possibility to have some good seasons, new coaching staff, talented, maybe, yes. Yeah. All right, I feel that, Corey. So we can push Flournoy here to give us an 7th wide receiver, and then I will take one of those Baltimore guys as the 8th wide receiver. So that's probably how I'm ending this draft, with the 2 out of these 3 guys. Now, I like Brazel, Keon Coleman, sure. All right, so there goes Flournoy. That sucks. All All right, so we didn't get Flournoy. Balls. Do we go with Brazel here or Keon Coleman? What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? All right. We'll take. I'm going to take Devontae Walker. I don't care. We did not get Flournoy. That sucks. But you can't be too mad. I definitely thought that he would make it back on the turn. That's why I didn't do it. So we're sitting here with a wide receiver room. So we have Lamar, Dak, Henry, Stevenson, Dowdle, Johnson, Tyron Tracy, Mixon, Brian Robinson, Puka, George Pickens, Terry McLaurin, Marvin Harrison, Jalen McMillan, Darnell Mooney, Devontae Walker, Ferguson, Likely, Taylor. Who do we want to finish this draft with? Do we go after the one-hit wonder of Rashad Bateman? Will he do something? Do we want to pivot into another running back to get this to a 2.873? Knowing that our two quarterbacks do get hurt a lot, do we want to pull up a rookie and see how the cards lie? Those are the questions we have to ask ourselves. Also, hey, by the way, Jack Beck. Okay. Christian Kirk. Still there. Okay. How old is Kirk? Christian Kirk's 29 years old. Okay. I mean, sure. He could have a spot. Do we go with one of these backs? Like Jordan James? Will Jalen Naylor take another step in the right direction this year? Possibly. Do we go with Tez? Double up on the Tampa wide receiver room in case something happens. Again, they're not the model of stability. All right, guys. So we're going to take one of these four, possibly. There we go. Donta Thornton. Another guy showing up. Will he have a better year? Maybe. The immortal Cedric Tillman. All right, guys. Who would you like to see on this team? One of these guys is going on the team. Who would you like to see on the team? We have Bateman, Beck, Jordan James, Tez Johnson, or Donta Thornton. Our team is Jack, Lamar, Dak, Derrick Henry, Ramondre, Rico, Emmett, Tyron, Joe Mixon, Brian Robinson, Puka, Pickens, McLaurin, Marv, McMillan, Mooney, Devontae Walker, Ferguson, Likely, and Mason Taylor. Do we go with $2, knowing that those injuries happen a lot? I'm thinking maybe. I'm thinking maybe. All right. We'll grab Tez there. Not too terrible. All right. So before we go, I do want to show you just a couple of the little boards that I've been getting myself into. This little board. So this one that I'm about to show you is the one that I told Joe actually that it was deliciously gross. So this little board that I'm showing you right now is one that I told Joe was deliciously gross. We have a 3773, Daniels, Penix, Shadur, Derrick Henry, ETN, Tony Pollard, Rico Dowdle, Tyron, Gainwell, and Braylon Allen. Jamar T. This is the one that we got sniped with Burrow right before. Terry, Jawan, Judy, Trey Tucker, Darnell Mooney, Kyle Pitts, Freiermuth, and Noah Gray. This is another one that it was in shambles. This is one we did live on air. Baker, Shook, Fields. This is one I did at home. Baker, Shook, Fields, James Cook, Saquon Barkley. So this is one of those drafts where I did 3 running backs in a row. James Cook, Barkley, Brees, Rico, Sharps, Dylan Sampson, Ladd, Christian Watson, BTJ, Parker Washington. We were aiming for a Trevor there. Jordan Addison, Tucker, Trey Harris, Brazel, Juwan, Otten, Frymouth. I hate this team so much. Okay. I don't recommend that. Here we have Dak and Brock with Brees, Judkins, Tajay, Rashad White, Allen, Sampson, B-Rob, Emmanuel Wilson. This we have CD, Zay, Rome, QJ, Jalen Millen. Flournoy is on this team. Brock Bowers, Kyle Pitts, George Kittle. So this one I went tight end a little bit earlier. And then there was another one here where we went tight end a little bit crazy. But I'm okay. Like, that's the thing. Like, there are so many ways to pivot with some of these teams. This is one where I went tight end a little bit early. We ended up with Jordan Love and Cam Ward as 2 quarterbacks. We have Bucky, 3 running backs here. This is a Joe style team. But guys, we will be with you tomorrow. Joe will be with us. We're going to be live starting probably around 3:45, 4 o'clock, depending on how things shake down. But feel free to like, follow, subscribe. We'll be doing drafts all throughout the offseason. We're going to hit a couple little boards tomorrow with Joe. We appreciate the love. We appreciate the chat. Thanks, everybody, for joining. Have a good night. And we'll see you tomorrow, 3:45, and you'll get to see Joe's beautiful, shining face with us. So peace out, and thanks for joining us.